We've just seen a wonderful performance of Abigail Adams by Linda Meyer. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, what was it about Abigail's upbringing or experience that sort of helped her want to see the education of women?
Well, I think that Abigail always respected people who had education because her parents both had, her father certainly had gone to Harvard and was an educated man. And as fairly prominent people in the community, she was around educated people. She had a brother who was getting a very fine education, and as she once said in a letter to a cousin, women have an equal share of curiosity as men. So I think that she felt it was really unfair and unjust that she and her sisters should not have the same educational advantages that her brother was enjoying. So I think it came from her own experience of there being that double standard and feeling left out and wanting more and having the natural curiosity.
Now, what is your favorite letter? Because we know about Abigail, I think, so much of her life because of the wonderful letters that she left. What's your favorite?
One of the letters that I really enjoy because it has such musicality to it and it has such passion is a letter that she wrote to John when he was at the First Continental Congress, and he had been away for about 10 weeks at that time, and it was the longest absence that they had ever had and at that point. So I will quote some of it. This was written in the fall of 1774. And she says, "My much loved friend, I dare not express to you at 300 miles distance how ardently I long for your return. The idea plays about my heart, unnerves my hand whilst I write, awakens all the tender sentiments that years have increased and matured. The whole collected stock of 10 weeks' absence knows not how to brook any longer restraint, but will break forth and flow through my pen."
How
she was an emotional Puritan.
But how eloquent of her.
Incredible, incredible.
Now, they had a daughter named Nabby, and Nabby went with her, as you've mentioned in your performance, so many places. When Nabby died of breast cancer, how did that affect her? Did she write about it?
She wrote about it a great deal. At this point, Abigail was in the very late years of her life. It was in 1813 or 1814, I believe. So Abigail was 4 years from her death. She was 70 years old. So she had already undergone the death of her sisters, her parents, and many other people who were very close to her. But she always said that this was, and she had lost her son Charles in 1800, that this was the most difficult blow she had ever sustained. Because it was such an agonizing death and because she was so close to Nabby. And it sent her into probably the deepest depression she had ever had since her mother had died in 1775, which was 40 years before. So it was a very terrible blow for her.
She had a lot of hardships because John was away so much. She had to run the farm and raise the children very often on her own. But in terms of running the farm, what were some of the hardships that she had?
Well, in New England, it's very hard to run a farm. It's very bad country for farming anyway. So anyone would have difficulty running a farm there because it's bad land, it's bad climate, it's tough. So she had all of those problems. And then in addition, of course, it was hard to get labor. She wasn't going to be out there doing everything herself. She had to hire people. And because of the wartime situation, it was very hard to get and keep laborers.
And yet, I just want to interject, and they did not have slaves, and they did not get slaves, even at that time of hardship for them. They stood firm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They always insisted that they had hired help. And and then she had to negotiate with them, and she didn't feel comfortable doing that because her husband wasn't there. So those were, and of course she didn't really know that much about how to run a farm. but she did have help from family members who were more experienced that advised her what to plant and so on. But I think the biggest thing were shortages of labor, continually escalating prices, people always wanting to gouge her for wages.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much for being here. This has been a wonderful presentation. You've really brought Abigail Adams alive.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here and taking the time for the interview. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming to Chautauqua 2001, Creating a New Nation with us. I'm Angela Rice Beamer from the Germantown campus of Montgomery College. Good night.